Welcome to Digital Health Talks. Each week, we meet with the healthcare leaders making an immeasurable difference in equity, access, and quality. Hear about what tech is worth investing in and what isn't as we focus on the innovations that deliver. Join Megan Antonelli, Janae Sharp, and Shahid Shah for a weekly no BS deep dive on what's really making an impact in healthcare.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Health Impacts Digital Health Talks. This is Megan Antonelli, and I'm here today with Dr. Bonnie Feldman, co-founder and chief patient officer at Rheumission. I've known Bonnie a long time. It's exciting to have you here. Hi, Bonnie. How are you?
Great, Megan. Delighted to be here. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate.
Absolutely. Well, we are all about female founders here, being one myself. And when I saw that you had launched Rheumission, I was so excited to have you on the show. So tell us a little bit about Rheumission and your inspiration and what it does.
I'd love to. We are super proud of Rheumission, and we have now launched. I founded Rheumission as a one-stop shop with a multidisciplinary team to better serve autoimmune patients like myself, my family, including my 2 son-in-laws, and my 10 grandkids who have a double dose of these genes. After decades of being an autoimmune patient myself with a convoluted patient journey like most of the other stories we have heard, I was just fed up. I was waiting for someone to reimagine autoimmune care, and then finally, that someone needed to be me. And what I longed for was a holistic solution that would bring the best of conventional and lifestyle medicine and deliver it through a tech-enabled platform. I didn't really know how that was going to look, but when I set out to build it, I met Dr. Yu, who is our integrative rheumatologist, triple boarded in conventional lifestyle and functional medicine. And I was so excited to find someone like him with this huge toolkit that I kind of took it as a sign from up above that this was supposed to happen. And I proceeded to recruit a lifestyle medicine physician, and now we have an entire team that includes a psychologist to address the anxiety and depression that is often overlooked in autoimmune patients, the exercise issues. We have an exercise program, we have a care coordinator, and most importantly, we have a dietitian she's a registered dietitian with an expertise in autoimmune food plans, and that is really important to our holistic approach to lifestyle medicine and rheumatology.
Well, that's amazing. And oh my God, 10 grandchildren. That is amazing. I knew you long before that. And congratulations on that, because that is quite an accomplishment.
10 grandchildren is, and I want to inspire all the older women out there because candidly, we are venture funded. We have a seed round from Takeda Digital Ventures, and it's, how shall we say, I am not your stereotypical entrepreneur. I'm smaller in stature. I am much older. There is no slot for a short little woman with 10 grandchildren. They had to be super imaginative in that regard. And so we are grateful to have the opportunity to seed this idea and launch the product, which has gotten initial feedback from the patients, which has been very encouraging and positive.
Well, that's great. Maybe we'll just have to get you a Patagonia vest just to have you, feel a little bit bigger, but I think it's fabulous, and kudos to Takeda for making the investment. And I think, as you said, that holistic approach is so important. So, and there's been a lot, we work with Node Health, and we work with a lot of the over the years about the evidence and the value and the research that goes into this. So tell us a little bit about the R&D process around Rheumission's approach.
So research is near and dear to my heart. Many people probably don't know this, but I have what's called deep curiosity, and I'm a lifelong learner. It kind of began when I was a kid, and I can't even believe this, but at 8, I asked my mother what was inside a frog. And what did she do to that curious question? She ordered me frogs to dissect in the basement. Now, I have to say, none of my grandchildren have done that yet, but looking at their array of interests, and as I reflect to my own childhood, I can see that that deep-seated curiosity is with me today. In fact, as an equity research analyst, that is all about research. That is all about curiosity on the business side, looking at hundreds and hundreds of healthcare companies. And I was nicknamed the due diligence hound dog because no matter what I found out, I needed to find out more. And I applied this over a decade in autoimmune disease when I was first a patient advocate. And in the patient advocate world, most of the patients, I was a different kind of patient advocate because I was advocating for autoimmune disease as an investment opportunity. So I was helping investors to understand the size of the market. It began when I first did digital health consulting for cancer companies, and I went to the autoimmune companies. I went to them and said, why can't you do autoimmune? And they said, the market is too small. And I said, no, you're wrong. The market is actually really large because if you it's currently segmented by body part, but when you add up all the individual diseases, unfortunately, it's a large and growing market. Most recently, there have been many publications that have validated this original research that really took place a decade ago. And the more important research to form the ideas around remission came from my 500 patient interviews over a decade. So we've done extensive speaking to patients about their patient journey, about their pain points. And at Rheumission, I am technically called the Chief Patient Officer. And as the Chief Patient Officer, once again, I have to thank our board who allowed me to have a three-pronged approach. One of them is constant patient research. We are always talking to patient, iterating the product. We have a patient feedback program based in research because we want them to tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm also, if there's any listeners out there, in the process of putting together what we're calling a patient advisory council that will be a strategic board that will help me as the Chief Patient Officer to get input from a patient perspective on areas of expertise that they may have, technology issues that we have, user design, experience, marketing, whatever other skills they can bring in addition to their patient or lived experience. So that's the basis of our research and our current patient first strategy.
Great. Yeah. Well, bringing the patient into it is so important. And I think in terms of providing that holistic support, right? I mean, I think the thing that people don't necessarily understand, and as you said, that it impacts several different areas of the body, and they, depending on what disease you have and disorder, and in terms of the holistic approach to that, right? So tell me a little bit about, and that's where, I mean, I know my mom had rheumatoid arthritis, and she, went through many medications. Some worked, some didn't, some caused multiple other issues, right? So they're tough medicines to take in a lot of cases, and they cause other problems. But then there's the nutrition and the sleep and the exercise and the things that are much more within the patient's control, but often harder to do than taking the pill or the shot or getting the infusion. So tell me a little bit about how Rheumission is going to support that.
Love to. It began when I was a patient in conventional medicine, and autoimmune disease, as I said, is segmented by body part. So most of these patient journeys, including my own, include multiple visits to specialists. If you have a skin problem, you see a dermatologist, you see an endocrinologist, a rheumatologist, a gastroenterologist, when really the entire body is connected. Your mind is connected to your body, and rheumatology in particular, your joint pain is connected to both your mind, your mindset, your stress level, your sleep patterns, your exercise. So when I was a patient, I had to put together my own team By becoming the CEO of my own health, seeing a conventional rheumatologist, going first, my personal experience was in functional medicine, and then going to physical therapy and lots of different exercise modalities that I call movement therapy. And in dreaming about remission, we wanted a one-stop shop. And Dr. Yu, the rheumatologist, and his wife, Dr. Melissa Mandela, who is our lifestyle medicine doctor, already had established a program in their private practice that looks similar but different to remission. In their private practice, they function, they have what I'll call integrative rheumatology. Lifestyle medicine is the first line of defense. We believe in medications such as biologics, but it is not the first line of defense. The first line of defense is the whole body integrated into lifestyle medicine, using food as medicine with the support of a dietitian. That is how remission works too. And in their private practice, they actually have an evidence base that shows a remission rate of up to 60% using this modality. And some of it includes drugs and some of it doesn't, but it's a combination approach. So based upon that experience, we have built even more into our one-stop shop. We are dealing with the anxiety and depression that is associated with many of these diseases by having a psychologist as part of our team. We acknowledge it, and it is super important. In doing 500 patient interviews, whenever I say, oh, you know that anxiety and depression is often associated with these diseases, see if you can guess the most common answer I get.
Is it a chicken and the egg question? Does the depression come first or after, or?
Sometimes I get that. More often than not, I get, yeah, I have that and no one's ever asked me.
Well, sure. Right.
Or sometimes I get, yeah, they sent me to a psychiatrist and I'm on antidepressants, but it's really not helping enough.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, and often is it sometimes the first line of diagnosis, right? I mean, it's like, I know as as women going through changes and there's pains and there's aches and there's joints and then, the first thing is, well, how's your sleep and are you depressed? So a lot of time that's the first line, right?
correct. So we're going to deal with that head on, and we're going to have a psychologist. So how the program works is patients see Dr. Yu, our integrative rheumatologist, and then they go to the lifestyle medicine sort of side of this, where they are supported by a registered dietitian, lifestyle medicine doctor, a psychologist, and an exercise program. We also have a care coordinator to make our one-stop shop more patient-friendly. It is a program that is everything that I wanted to find for myself that I couldn't. And so far, our patients have said things like, this is the best thing I have ever experienced in medicine. I love the convenience of having it all in one place. And they've said things like, it's really important to look at the big picture of me, because the program is also not cookie cutter. What I have found in my autoimmune diseases that were undiagnosed for years is that every person's body is different. Every person's body responds differently to stress. The definition of stress changes from body to body, and in my case, it changes with age and level of disease. So how do you develop a program that takes all that into account? This is truly personalized, and it is one-to-one. And there is no one size fits all, and each of our custom programs is designed for that particular patient.
Got it. So how many patients do you have enrolled in the program now?
We have about a dozen.
Awesome. And
Because
then
we
in
just
terms of how does it scale, right? So is there sort of the access or the growth or just more staff, or tell me a little bit about the platform and how that works.
Sure. We are led by Dean Sawyer, our CEO, who has a track record of 5 successful startups. And as a seed stage startup, you can't do everything at once. We have a very disciplined approach to our growth. And it goes like this. We're going to have a dual strategy, direct to consumer. That's what we have now. The largest growth will come from the transition from fee-for-service to value-based care, starting with our first type of insurance pilot study to prove our outcomes. After that, we will scale the model very similar to our sister company, Oshi, in terms of expanding to states, expanding to more value-based care contracts, and probably expanding to more diseases.
Oh, amazing. So tell me a little bit, we've talked to a few folks this week about, value-based care, and there's been some discussion online, and I think coming out of all the events that have been happening. I think I saw from the Health Evolution event last week, and they had a session that was sort of like, is value-based care here to stay? And it's like, we've been talking about that for a long time. So tell me a little bit about what does the value-based care structure for Rheumission look like in terms of the contract and stuff?
I can't give too many details because number one, we're really early, and candidly, we don't know exactly. In the big picture, in fee-for-service, only parts of our program are reimbursable. In other words, the physician visits are reimbursable. The dietitian may or may not be reimbursable in fee-for-service. In our original model, coaching is not reimbursable. So the advantage from our perspective and from a patient's perspective is to have a bundled payment so that there is one price to include all of these services. That's our big picture goal.
Right.
How that will actually be translated into a contract, I'm not sure. That is not my area of expertise. But the big picture is that you will be able to bundle these services and have one price to include all of these visits. The patients now have many visits. I mean, it's a very intensive program. They're seeing the rheumatologist, they're seeing the lifestyle medicine, they're seeing the psychologist, they're seeing the dietitian, they're seeing the exercise program. That's quite a large number of visits, and in fee-for-service, it would not be feasible.
Right. And now is some of this, is it a combination? Is it hybrid? I mean, are there virtual visits and in-person visits? How much of it is virtual versus in person?
Right now, it is all virtual.
Got it.
We do have plans in the future to have partnerships for hybrid activities. One of the questions we get from many patients is, can you really do a virtual rheumatology visit? Because patients think, oh, well, I have a red swollen joint. How are they going to look at it and see it? And, that's a great question. During COVID, many rheumatologists learned how to do virtual visits. And Dr. Yu has been doing virtual visits before even COVID. So the answer is, for the 3 diseases that we are currently treating, which is rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, and ankylosing spondylitis that involve joint pain, we feel very confident that we can do those virtually. And there has been conventional medicine validation of virtual visits, mostly coming out of COVID. The other underlying theme is there's a tremendous shortage of rheumatologists, and the current tremendous shortage is expected to grow exponentially. So that when you interview patients, a common complaint is if they live in a rural area that's a rheumatology desert, they have no options. If they live in a city where there are rheumatologists, most of them have closed practices. So although there are options, the waiting time is 3 to 6 months. I mean, for example, my own brother-in-law who lived in Chicago saw Dr. Yu because he couldn't get a timely appointment with his brick and mortar rheumatologist. And he was very impressed that Dr. Yu was able to make his diagnosis.
Yes, even in Chicago. And here comes my senior dog coming in to have, he's probably feeling his arthritis as he jumps on the chair. But yeah, no, that is, I mean, I think there's a certain intensity to the treatments, right? Where if you are getting medication that you need to go in, but also the support of what's necessary where you would be going in, but also because of the debilitating, pain often having to go in. So as much as you can alleviate that for the patients, all the better. And of course, the access issue is huge. So being able to support that is big. So, I mean, what an amazing solution and offering in terms of, for the patients. So, given your experience, in patient advocacy and consulting as a longtime entrepreneur in the space and consulting with entrepreneurs, tell me a little bit about, your challenges and, you mentioned the getting funding and the trajectory for, where you see, Rheumission finding its footing and growth and scale for that.
Sure. Over the years, as a patient advocate, I've watched myself and others get poor results from conventional medicine that only focuses on medicines. And this leads to negative side effects and actually a much higher cost for autoimmune patients to the system at large. So we want to actually give patients a better experience, a one-stop shop, a comprehensive approach to rheumatology, and also save the payers money, which we believe we will be able to do. We are following in the footsteps of our sister company, Oshi, in the GI space, who is further along and has already proved the value and has multiple value-based care types contracts and has expanded nationwide. So our approach is very similar. Our goal is to be a national virtual first value-based care practice where patients don't have to wait 3 to 8 months to see a rheumatologist, where they can quickly have access to one in a new and different and improved one-stop virtual integrative rheumatology approach that fills their physical, mental, and emotional needs. So we want to do that for the patients. We want to save the payers money. And the challenges that we face are balancing the business needs with the patient needs. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly what we are trying to do.
Amazing. Well, I think you're on a very good path to doing that. I think, it's certainly not easy, but getting there and getting the funding in those initial stages. So congratulations. And
Thank you.
I'm so excited. It's a topic near and dear to my heart. And I'm happy to, excited to hear more about it as you guys continue to grow.
It is very hard to get a seed stage startup off the ground. And I wake up every morning and look at a picture of my 10 grandchildren to imagine and visualize what is really important. And that is to leave a legacy of prevention for autoimmune patients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. I think that is so important. And that holistic approach that you're taking is really, so meaningful and important in this space.
Thank you.
And, tell us where we can find you, where people can get more information.
Rheumission.com, www.rheumission.com. And as the Chief Patient Officer, you can contact me directly, Bonnie@rheumission.com. And I also talk to patients. You can call me, and that's on my email.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bonnie. I appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners. Reach out to Bonnie. We love to get your questions and make any connections we can. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this week's Health Impacts Digital Health Talk. Don't miss another podcast. Subscribe at digitalhealthtalks.com. And to join us at our next face-to-face event, visit healthimpactlive.com.